This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this is the Sony Reader Touch Edition PRS-650. This is Sony's third generation touchscreen reader and by far the best. The original PRS-700 was very murky looking and lacked contrast because it had a touchscreen resistive layer on top and side lights installed between the two layers. Then we had the PRS-600, which we also reviewed, and that still had the resistive touchscreen layer, so it really did affect text in a negative way. Now, just like the PRS-350 Pocket Edition that we reviewed recently, Sony has switched to infrared beams that run around the side of the screen. They don't add another layer on top of the e-ink display, so what you have is perfect clarity and also very responsive touch. This is a 6-inch e-ink reader with the new Pearl e-ink display, just like the other new Sony readers, the PRS-350 Pocket and the upcoming Daily Edition PRS-950, and like the Amazon Kindle 3 and DX Graphite. So far, just Amazon and Sony have the new Pearl e-ink displays, and they offer significantly increased contrast. You can really see the difference between this and an older reader that runs a regular e-ink display. So down here you can see we have several buttons for controlling page turning to go home at any point, for zooming, and for options, and that's context sensitive. You don't need a D-pad on this because you can just touch the screen, so that means no more infinitely hammering on the D-pad to try to get around to a certain word to look it up in the dictionary. Speaking of dictionaries, this ships with like 10 dictionaries. 2 of them are American English dictionaries, the Oxford New American and the Oxford English Dictionary, and many translation dictionaries as well for European languages. Let's take a look at the interface here. Again, this is a lot like the PRS-350 that we reviewed, and not so different from the Daily Edition that came out last year. Whatever you've been reading most recently is up here, and this is your book library, and you can tap over there to see all. You've got periodicals if you've got any. Collections, you can create collections on the device if you like, which is very handy. It's equivalent of organizational folders, if you will. And you can create notes, which we'll take a look at later also. We're in the Home tab right now. You can switch to Applications, and you'll see there's a photo viewer. It's of limited interest on a grayscale display, really, but these e-ink readers always have them. Handwritten notes, you can just use this to jot notes. It's not just for writing on a book. For example, here's one of the samples they have here where somebody's drawn a map, and you can edit it just by tapping here. Now, you could use your finger to do this, but I'm not great with drawing with my finger, so I'm going to use the stylus instead and add my own, like so. And there's an eraser, so you can also erase whatever you've written. It does a fairly good job of doing a partial refresh of the screen. You know, with the e-ink you always see that flash to black when the screen redraws, but in this case it's doing just the section of the screen that you've been working on, so you don't see it flashing. And when you're done, you hit done, obviously, or you can create a new one as well. And you've got a back button up here always, so you don't actually have to hit the home menu and start all over again when you're navigating through something. And then we've got the music player over here. Take a look at that. If you have cover art, it will display. These are some sample files that came with the device, and this is my own music here. Just tap on something, and it'll start playing. Through the 3.5mm stereo jack at the bottom, this does not have built-in speakers. You have volume controls right over here. And while we're looking at the bottom, here's your micro USB port you'll use for copying books, periodicals, and music to the reader, and also for charging. Gone is the barrel-style charger from old Sony readers. Now we use micro USB based. Charger is not included in the box, so you'll charge with USB from a computer, or if you have a USB charger with a micro end, say for your smartphone, that'll work just fine, or for another e-reader like the Kindle 3. Stylus, as you saw, is here. It's a fairly good sized stylus. And up here we have both an SD and a memory stick duo slot, and there's the power button. That's one difference between this and the PRS-350 Pocket Edition with the 5-inch screen. It does not have expansion slots. This does also have built-in memory, so you can store 1,000 or more books on it. Take one more look at applications, and you can see right here there are text memos. Now these you can create yourself using an on-screen keyboard, and you can also view anything that you've created inside of a book. So you just basically type with your fingers, just like you would on a smartphone. Now for a size comparison, we're going to show you what the Sony PRS-350 looks like with the 5-inch display. They both have the same resolution, so you'll see the same amount of text on screen. Text will obviously be a little bit smaller on the 5-inch display here. These are both incredibly small and light readers. The 6-inch model weighs only about 7.5 ounces, which isn't much more than one of your heavier smartphones. And it's considerably lighter than something like the Nook, another EPUB-based reader. You can see that's much bigger. So if portability is important to you, that's nice. What's the drawback with the Sony reader? It does not have wireless. If you want to get books and periodicals on here, you're going to have to use the USB cable. You can buy books from Sony's store. Their prices are pretty similar to Amazon's at this point. Agency pricing has really leveled out pricing across the vendors. Amazon still has more books, but it's pretty difficult to not find popular books and bestsellers on Sony's bookstore, honestly. They have a very good selection, and they have a reasonable selection of periodicals and magazines as well. But again, there is no wireless here, even though this guy costs more than the Kindle and the Nook. At $229 list, those are being discounted to $209 or $219 at a variety of vendors, and probably the price will come down in a couple of months, we suspect. This does do EPUB text. It does not do Amazon format. Only Kindle readers do Amazon format. You can use library books with this if you have a public library that has ebooks, and you can also read Google Books on this. So you have a lot of reading material available for this reader. Now let's take a look at how a book looks. First we're going to go one of the free books that's available from Sony, one of the classic books. See, here's the text. The contrast is very good. This is very readable, and where the E Ink Pearl display really helps is in weaker lighting, where you used to need a book light because the text wasn't looking so sharp. There's more contrast here. You can choose from a variety of font sizes. Right now we're at medium, which is actually quite large. You can go down to something like small. Probably more like what most people would want to read in. And the device can also display in landscape mode. If you go to options, you can tell it to switch to landscape mode. Page turn speeds are good. It's got a fast controller. And while the camera captures the flash to black really well, when you're looking at it in person, it's less noticeable than it is on the camera. But that's the nature of e-ink displays. They all have that flash to black when they refresh the page. Now we're going to take a look at PDFs, which is where Sony really does pull ahead. Their own user guide is in PDF format, and we know that that's been formatted to look good on this, but let's pick something else that wasn't formatted for a 6-inch screen. Looking at a user manual for a Toshiba Libretto notebook here. It's in PDF form. Page turn speed is very good, even in this fairly large PDF. And text is teeny but readable right now. So I'll just pick a link there from the table of contents, and here you go. You see images intact and links are active. What we're going to do right now is zoom in. And that's your standard text enlargement mode. Now, if we want to go back to standard view and do this, now you've actually got true zooming of the PDF that doesn't blow out your layout. You've got sliders here, so you can make it as large as you want, and obviously you can switch this to landscape mode if you want as well. Do that right here. And zoom in. And then you can pan around using the arrows. So here we are back in an EPUB book. You can make annotations on PDFs as well. You just have to be using an EPUB. And if you want to make a note, tap right there. And here you have your note making tools. You've got your highlighter, your writer, your eraser, and so on. So first we've got our highlighter here for highlighting text. And then we've got our freehand. My handwriting is pretty bad, but I'm sure yours is better. And that is saved with the book. And if you sync it up to the Sony desktop software, your notes will be available there. They aren't available for export to other applications, though. So there's the note taking. And we've closed out the note, and we're still looking at with our persistent notes visible. Now if you want to search, Inside the book you can search for a word, page number, whatever it is that you want. Quite easy. How do you use the dictionary? Just tap on a word. You could use your finger as well. Brings up a definition down here. Here's a concise definition. If you want to see more, tap over there, and there's the full page of the dictionary with the definition. When you're done, just hit the close box. If you want to quickly move around inside the book, here are your options. You can go to History, or you can select the page. The book had a table of contents. You could also go to that. If you want a bookmark, just tap on the corner. And you've got a bookmark, which you can also go to. So that's the latest Sony Reader Touch Edition, 6-inch. This is the PRS-650 again. And this is one of our favorite readers in terms of usability because of the really fantastic touchscreen and the very sharp text clarity. The downside is you got to pay a bit more than you do for the Nook or the Kindle, just $20 or so more, and you lose wireless. Sony will be releasing the Sony Reader Daily Edition PRS-950 with a 7-inch display. It's taller, like the last generation was, and that one will have wireless in November, but that one will be considerably more money. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Visit our website to read the full review.